Well, welcome everybody to an FA Cup edition of Ever Bristol City podcast. It will be the only FA Cup edition this season. We won't be troubling the draw master in round 4, but let's be fair, it was a decent game at Ashton Gate at lunchtime today. It finished City 1, the Wolves 2. Were they hungry like the Wolves in the opening 20 minutes? Wolves were, weren't they? Yeah.
There's a link. There's a Duran link.
Yeah, Duran. I know. I had to bring that one in. So it's the song title is actually "Hungry Like the Wolf." So that won't be this episode's intro. I'm joined today by father and son combo Neil and Tom Sutton, and the Imelda Marcos of Down End. Mark Tovey is sat there in the background. Guys, as we do, I'll come to you first, Mark. As you trudged away from Ashton Gate at about, just after 2 o'clock, what were your immediate thoughts?
Well, playing against a Premier League team can do one of two things. It can show that you're competitive, win heroically, have periods of pressure at both ends, and leave you coming away thinking that the team are stepping up. Or in our case, it can really show you deficiencies and the golfing class between the Premier League and the Championship, where you're nervous enough to keep getting turnover possession, you create few chances, but you score a goal for a bit of quality, and that was what happened today. City started really badly. For 40 minutes, they were outclassed by Wolves, scored a great goal. In the second half, looked quite tidy, but Wolves were never out of their comfort zone. It's time for Fadi Mayulu to look for pastures new. He's not good enough for Bristol City. And until we get a striker back, we're not really going to make a sustained effort on the playoffs if we have a chance of that. So a deserved result for Wolves. And we look back to the Championship, and it will be 52 years next year since we got through to the quarterfinals of the Cup. I live in hope of seeing that before I meet my maker.
Well, there we go. I hope we do. Neil, your thoughts? I mean, it was a good crowd, big crowd from Wolves.
I think the first 25 minutes to 30 minutes, we were standoffish, living a bit in awe. We weren't on the game.
We showed them too much respect, you think, yeah?
I don't know about respect. I think we were just
inferior?
Flat. Well, we were inferior in every department the first 25, 30 minutes. But I think we let them come to our place and dictate the game to us. And we were chasing shadows. And at 2-0, I thought, oh, God, this could get 4-5 easily in relationship, like QPR have gone to Leicester and had that sort of result today. But in fairness, they stepped off the gas. Fantastic free kick by Twine, yet again. Best free kick taker I've seen at City.
Marvellous player, absolutely marvellous player.
You've always spoke very
highly.
I've always
spoke well of Twiney.
But have you, David?
Barnard,
Bell, Walsh.
I prefer Barnard to Bell in a way, but Barnard and stuff. So that's going back 20 odd years.
Yeah.
Second half felt. We didn't seem to have the urgency in our play a little bit. I know that we had the chance that came off the crossbar that everybody thought was McCrory, but it was actually Al Nouri. I think other than that, there wasn't an urgency in our play second half. We were better second half, but Thomas turned to me. We were in the south stand. And
you got a great shot at a goal.
We got a fantastic shot. First time in the south stand for a long time, and great shot at the goal. But the second half, it was like 18 minutes. It was like, are we actually chasing this game?
We didn't.
It's 2-1. Where's the urgency?
We seemed content. We weren't the little cup fighting side in that context.
It was just a little bit like, are we 4-0 down and we're just doing damage?
Marking time.
There wasn't the urgency in it, but Wolves were the better side.
Oh, no doubt. And they are in the Premier League. Tom, your thoughts?
Lack of physicality first half cost us the game come the end. As soon as you go 2-0 down, it felt a little bit like game over. Then we stood off them massively. I thought we were second to most balls first half. I thought we got our press wrong. I thought we were outthought, and I thought we were outpaced more than anything. They looked quick in attack. I think we looked sort of try and do too much. maybe not having that physical threat about us that I thought Rodrigo Gomez brought them first half. And I thought poor defending as well, particularly from Roberts. I think he had a really poor first half an hour in particular. I think he's at possible fault for, well, you could argue both goals, and later on in the game where they go on and kick it against the post and Roberts try and do too much. But, fantastic free kick. And that's the difference with Twine. I know I complain about his lack of effect in open play sometimes, but with the ball dead on the floor,
he's the man.
His quality is unarguable. But I thought we were better second half. I thought, but I also thought that Wolves, they had to contain us a little bit more. As soon as it goes 2-1, it's a very dangerous scoreline, and I thought that the freedom was taken away from their attack when we pulled it back to 2-1.
Yeah.
But I thought it deserved a loss in truth today.
Neil, the lineup, and I'll come to each of you on our lineup. Do we take it seriously? We had Sykes and Naismith on the bench, but when you saw it was Knight and McGuane lining up in the middle, obviously Rob Dickey's off sick. But did you expect to see Maulu leading the line? What did you think of the lineup?
Well, I think to be fair, Manning is supporting Fally, isn't he? I mean, his performances don't justify him starting in that game, but he is giving him the opportunity. In fairness to Manning, he's given him the opportunity once again, and he's, for a guy who's low in confidence, he's given him the opportunity. Got 75 minutes today. We can probably talk about that later on, whether that was too long. But for me, midfield, McGuane and Knight probably are very similar. I don't think there's
I heard
much...
somebody say the same on Radio Bristol. Yeah,
and
it's not creative passing either of them.
Well, Bird has got, Thomas spoke about this during the game to me, so credit to Thomas, but it was, the false pass he plays down that centre. I haven't seen a better guy in the division than Bird with that false pass down the centre. The problem is you haven't got the pace down the centre, so when he set Naki free with one of those free, I mean, it's the type of ball that Mehmeti's got onto a couple of times when he's playing inside, but Mehmeti had a poor game today. Poor game. I wasn't surprised when he got taken off after 60 plus as well. But we hadn't the pace up top, and I was quite surprised in the second half when Bell, really, who was about probably the most pacey forward there, when you came on for Bell. And again with it. But starting lineups, Dave, going back to starting lineups, no, I could understand it in terms of it. I mean, with Dickey out, he's sick. Why risk him? I probably would have gone with Wells over Fally. That felt a little bit like arm around the shoulder type selection.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, what did you think of the lineup? And talking about our lineup, theirs as well. They took it seriously, didn't they? Because they want to get momentum, and the new manager's getting them. New manager Pereira looking to see what he's got to keep them in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, he only made 3 changes from the team that lost to Nottingham Forest at home last Monday. So he took it seriously. But as a new manager, you believe that he wanted to look at his players to make them prove a point. So he played Gadu as the left centre back, who they just bought for 16 million. But I think that helped the game. That was good for supporters who paid the money to travel and who visited Bristol City for the first time. City, I think they probably would have started with Tanner, and if Rob Dickey was fit, so he would have played ahead of McCrory. But I think Maulu, he had to be given minutes, and it's more to protect Naki Wells in terms of freshness, as well as balance it up with Maulu. But it just didn't work. I mean, we try and find crumbs of comfort at Maulu, but he just wasn't up to it. He really didn't, press up to, the centre backs, make decent runs. He got caught out in possession, and we're trying to find, little crumbs of comfort that he did. But he just looked so far off from the player who made some instinctive touches against Hull and Millwall earlier this season as an impact sub. But when he started, I mean, you can talk about service all you like, but when you're in this business, it's ruthless, and you've got to do things on your own. Naki Wells is
he makes it happen.
He's a foot shorter, but he makes good runs. He makes his presence felt. He uses his ability to give himself opportunities to score. Mayulu is just so naive, and at the moment we've really got to see if we can loan him out. I think it's the best thing to do. Go move away abroad and get some time at a club on loan, and then see where it goes.
Yeah, a couple of things on the text feed. Somebody said, "What do we know about McGuane?" He went off, just picking up on that one point.
Well, he went down. He got knocked on the head in the first half, didn't he? He went down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it was a head injury.
No, he went off, Mark. He went off with a head injury. I was just going to say that there.
Yeah,
and the other thing about Mayulu getting the support, picking up on what you said, Neil. If Manning is part of the recruitment process, there've been a few comments on the fans forum saying they're playing him to save face, but sometimes you got to hold your hand up and say we got it wrong, and it looks like we bought a pup there.
He's a young player, come from abroad. He may come good. He may. But as it stands here now, I'm watching games where the players are losing belief in him. And the players are not passing to him in the positions now. And you can see the rest of the team. And there was one time today when Viner put a lovely through ball for him, but he has no acceleration.
No.
He literally looks like he's running through quicksand.
Yeah.
And he has one pace, and it's this loping pace.
That was where he was just running off the ball.
These balls through, wasn't it, Neil? It's just not actually going to happen. And then you can see the players are like, well, there's no point putting that ball through him. There's no point doing this. Yeah. There's no point doing that. And thus, you're playing with
10 men. There was one situation, I think it was in the first half where I was in Lower Lansdowne looking towards the south stand. And Knight had the ball, and the pass was onto Mayulu. He was facing, but he had players behind him. And Knight went the other way rather than give it to him to even attempt it. On to you, Tom, with the lineup, with Dickey being out and Manning setting the side up at the start of the season to play with a 4. He could have played Tanner, Viner, McNally, Roberts, and then mixed things up a little bit in front. And were you surprised maybe that he didn't sort of try Sykes from the start? You don't want to bring half-fit players on in the closing stages, do you? Or do you?
I think the 5 at the back has been good. We've had our best run of results. We've had 2 in a row. So it makes sense, a bit of continuity. You don't want to be swapping and changing. But I think McGuane is a less dynamic version of Knight. I like what McGuane brings in terms of physicality, but I thought he was pretty poor when we didn't have the ball in the first half. I didn't see the tackling. I didn't see the ball retention that you associate with McGuane. And actually, I'm gonna say this. I think that we missed a Williams type character, a tough tackler in midfield, particularly first half, to break up the play because they were just playing around us. And even if you foul them and you stop that relentless aggression, you get a break in play. There needs to be some sort of confidence builder. I remember when we went up there and Williams just smashed into someone at West Ham and at Forest. He would just smash into someone and it sets the tempo and the rest of the team feed off that. And for the first 20 minutes, we just sort of looked like, whoa, what are we playing against? Yeah, and it was just a barrage of attack after attack after attack.
And you say about the fouls, now it was refereed by Robert Jones, who is a Premier League official, and a lot of people have been saying again on the forum, he was showing them typical bias that Premier League referees do. But we conceded 15 against their 12. But you're right, we didn't get stuck in. And just as you were saying about McGuane, it needed Williams, I was thinking the same thing. But that's a Joe Williams.
That's a Joe Williams.
On his best form.
I also think Joe Williams, he's not mobile. So if you're playing Joe Williams, you've got to play Jason Knight to his running. So whether you put Joe Williams ahead of McGuane, but then McGuane's better than Williams on the ball. Yeah. But then you associate Wolves with potentially having more of the ball. Maybe you're having to defend a bit more. And I think Joe Williams is better maybe when you don't have the ball than McGuane is, because McGuane's got the ball retention, 5-yard pass. But with Mayulu, Dad said, players don't want to play for him. There was one with Mehmeti on the counter-attack today where Mayulu picks the ball up and he does quite well in truth. He turns and he's running and he gives it to Mehmeti out wide on the left. And you can just see Mayulu screaming for it at Mehmeti. And Mehmeti just completely ignores him, shuffles inside and goes out.
And lost it.
And lost the ball. But the 1-2, Mehmeti's looked up, saw it's Mayulu and gone, no, I'm going to go by myself here because Mehmeti's going to back himself on the ball than what he thinks Fally can do. If it's Wells, I think it's slightly different. I think him and Wells have a different sort of dynamic. I think Mehmeti respects Wells quite a lot.
Yeah.
I look at the Plymouth game, Wells cuts it back to him and Mehmeti scores and he's going straight over to Naki Wells. Yeah. And I think they have a
good rapport,
like that, and understand.
And that's what good teams are, is little groups of players in pockets, in areas, playing together.
Going back to what Mark said about resting Wells, he is 35. He's
34.
34, turning 35, but you've had a week since the last game, and I think that
Naki's a free week,
and it's a free week. I think Liam's looking to get Fally involved in combinations and players to sort of learn how to play with Fally. But he looks, all three that have come in and attack don't look like they've gelled with our attack at all. We don't understand how to play with them.
All three are talking Maelu, Armstrong, and you. When
you comes on, at first what you would see is a player that was willing to take risk. It was willing to drive at people. What you see now is a guy that has been overcoached, potentially, low on confidence, potentially, or he's not the player that
he thought he was.
Maybe. It's always a risk buying from abroad because you don't know how they're going to adapt to a league, particularly if they're young. It's worked in some cases, but I know financially we're in a position where you have to do these sort of deals. But it's really difficult because I don't see the players that we've had for the last couple of years gelling with Fally. But the most frustrating thing with Fally for me is there's a hope with him because of what he did at home.
And the little touches that he has, you can be, that's good, Fally, but it's basic.
A player with no ability wouldn't score the goals that he got on Millwall and Hull. So there's an ability there.
Something there.
There's an ability there.
Okay, let's move on. Interesting you say about buying foreigners. I actually went with two Wolves fans today, who were sat in the lower Lansdowne, and the person who was sort of my age, nudging 70, he was the one that got up and cheered when Wolves scored. And the other guy who was there with his two kids, he said to me, he said, "Can't you keep your child quiet?" When Adrian jumped up, and the two kids, if you're listening, you were credit to your dad today for being well behaved. They only have one Englishman in their team, Wolverhampton did, which is Johnson in goal, and the rest of them, it's all Brazilians and Portuguese, But they were trotting out, that player cost us 15 million, that player cost us 20 million. He's in the side, he cost us 20, but he's replacing a guy that would have cost us 40, and we could probably sell him for 60. It's different gravy. Now, Mark, tell me, what was unusual about today's game that I can't remember the last time it happened?
Wolves changing their shorts and they didn't need to.
No, right?
Well, that could be anything. So you're talking about your personal life here?
No, I'm just talking about this afternoon's game.
Right.
I can't remember the last time it happened.
Did it happen in the game?
And it happened. Well, what happened affected the game, but it happened at the start of the game. And what that was that we attacked the South Stand in the first half.
Well, that was Wolves that changed it, wasn't it?
So, they probably won the toss.
Wolves decided to change it.
So they won the toss.
Yeah.
So does that mean that then every single game, right? Every single game this season, we've won the toss because we've always
most teams will prefer to attack their fans second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That was just
an unusual point. I like the shorts.
An unusual point. Mark, I've got a number of incidents to talk about in the game. The first one was an instinctive save by Max O'Leary. Now, was that a good save by Max, him showing what a good goalkeeper he is, or just a goalkeeper doing his job? The first save, which was from Ait Nouri, funnily enough, when he just put his hands up and deflected it away.
It was a good instinctive save, but we didn't track the runner. And the same thing happened when he scored. We'll come on to, but it was a good case of. He was a left-sided wing back, and he was in the centre of the pitch, running onto the ball, and they were giving us all sorts of problems on both flanks because our wing backs were exposed. He made a great run. Good instinctive save from O'Leary. He's good at that. Standard save, but good save.
Good save, Neil.
A save you would have expected. In a way, it's kind of like
that's what he's paid for.
Plymouth away.
Yeah.
When that Naki Wells volley. and then the keeper made that save, and
Yeah.
you just thought, yeah, that's a good save, but it was a save that was kind of straight out. But
it looks good.
It looks good.
It looks
one
good.
Of those that looks good.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think when it comes back across, you're almost expecting the player to put it away. But I think it was actually a pretty poor finish from Aït-Nouri, more than a Max fantastic save. It is down the middle of the goal, but because it's been cut back, it looks potentially better than what it actually is.
Okay, I'll stick with you, Tom, for the first goal, because it was that Aït-Nouri, and again, the Wolves fans were saying he's a wing back, but he plays very much as in the left wing mould. And dare I say it, his general physique and everything looks a little bit like what's the lad who was on the bench? Elijah Morrison. You know, talk us through the first goal as you saw it, Tom, because it was Nouri who got the build up and what have you.
Obviously, it comes forward, and we were just getting absolute. By this time, the barrage had started, and then we can't seem to retain the ball. And I remember, ball comes out, and it's just this long, away swinging cross. So it almost tempts the goalkeeper to come, and it's quite difficult to defend. And it's a great ball of quality. Like, it's a really good ball. And Aït-Nouri, I think it's Roberts at the back post. He just runs his blind side. Is it not Roberts? Is it McCrory?
It's Twine. Twine and McNally.
From the south stand, I was like, binoculars out almost. But ball comes in, and it is Twine that he makes the run behind. And Twine's not a natural defender, especially when he's facing his own goal from 5 yards. And it's a great header, in fairness.
And that's Aït-Nouri, who's on the right side of our penalty box, even though he's the winger.
I thought Aït-Nouri was one of their best players, and he's got 9 goal contributions now this season from wing backs. Something we could only dream of, our wing backs getting involved that much within our attacking play. But he was a good player.
Neil, good. Sorry, bad goal to concede, or just
good delivery, pressure? Good delivery, good anticipation at the back post. I mean, as Thomas said, from the south stand with the binoculars out, we were claiming handball, but I've seen it back and it wasn't. He just stooped low, and it was a good finish and a good ball in it. But we just weren't switched on, were we? The first 20 minutes or whatever like that. We didn't stop the crosses coming out. We didn't get out to him to stop that ball on transition when we literally kicked it away and had all the time in the world to put it into a dangerous position there, really. And it just overloaded at the back.
Mark, could have been better defended?
Oh, yeah. It's a corner from the right. It's headed out to the left-hand side of the 18-yard box. Joao Gomez curls it back in, and nobody tracks Aït-Nouri. I mean, he didn't track him for that shot that we said was saved by Max, and he just runs behind Scott Twine and Luke McNally, and he stoops with the posture of a man cupping his lips at a water fountain and manages to still nod it down into the corner of the net. He's basically on the line, basically having a sup from the fountain of youth, and he's just completely lost our markers. Awful defending, and Twine's got to do better there. And McNally, if he said it's over to you, dear.
And where is Roberts? And where is Roberts from that perspective?
Probably up the pitch. I mean, his management of his position is poor. I don't see him as a left wing back at all. But really, we've headed the ball out to the corner. Joao Gomez crossed it back in, but nobody is watching. We're calling for an offside. There's no way the guy's offside. And like I said, he's able to stoop down and just push it into the corner of the net.
Yeah, and again, I'll say this. I've said it numerous times. That whole Atio end, full of Wolves fans. I mean, they were on top of the game, And
with health and safety, isn't it, David?
I really wish we could sort something else out by giving them.
Well, it's health and safety executive. Where do they put them? You would have to segregate one part of the ground, or possibly put them in the upper Lansdowne. I don't know if that's the only answer. If you gave that to home fans, you would have to designate another part of the stadium for away fans. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, my solution to that, and I think I've said this before, is that the entrance where the players go in and the media go in, which is the away bit, and a lot of City fans going in there in the lower Lansdowne. For me, I think the Dolman stand, the 2 blocks in the Atio, the Dolman stand side of the Atio, and block A and B in the Dolman could be given to away supporters. Now, that stops people who are in the Dolman walking in from the Greville Smythe Park entrance, because all you do underneath the dolman is put a partition so you can't walk all the way from the dolman right the way around.
So where would you put the away fans again, David? Say that again.
The N2 blocks in the Atio and the N2 blocks in the dolman. So block A and B in the dolman and the N2 blocks, and then that is an away supporters entrance.
So they can go in from the Aston Road, entrance.
That is there because at the moment you've got away
possible.
supporters going in
Yeah.
with the home supporters. Essentially the home supporters. It's not going to happen. We can sit here. I can pontificate as much as I like. Go on.
I think over the years, I mean, I've been a big thing on OTIP and stuff like that. I hate giving the whole away, but then the whole point of giving them that away end is from a financial thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, from a footballing perspective, why give
I'm still
3,000? Why give 3,500?
I'm still giving them the same number of tickets.
No, but
you have to give 15% of the capacity, don't you? In the FA Cup.
You could just basically if you so wanted, create. It would cost a bit of money because internally as well at Aston Diatio, you'd have to do a bit of work and you'd have to have the division and all the rest of it. But if you were like, you know what, that's given an advantage. And I'm sure the statistics in the end proves a hell of a lot more away side scoring goals at the Atio end than at the other end. But for me, it is quintessential City that we are just a really nice club. People come to us for a nice
day out.
We're happy to give a whole side of the ground to them, and it's just a little bit because you know that sides will travel in their numbers to come to us as a nice day out, and we're a nice club, and we're going to be mid-table, and we're going to be this, and we're going to be that. Whereas actually, I want us to be a little bit more ruthless at home,
all right.
And I think away fans. But if you get 3,500 in there each week, Dave, that over the course of the season, what was that? 2.5 million, 3 million in gate seats.
But what I'm saying is, you give the same number of seats, you just carve it up differently. That's just my
you'd have to police it differently, wouldn't you? I suppose.
So I don't think you would, because you wouldn't have any supporters going in, any away supporters going in the most popular side of the ground, which is the Lansdowne, Greville Smythe Park walkway, Marina Dolman Way, to give it its correct name. Yeah. You just put them in that other bit. It does mean partitioning off the Dolman.
But like Neil said, David, it's just down to finance. They're happy to reap the rewards and give up the whole end. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, maybe.
And avoid any issues.
Tom, Wolves got their tails up, and I thought that was a goal of quality. The second one, how did you see it?
Yeah, that's just pure pace, and I think that's an aggression that physical presence brings about you. I thought Strand Larsen was a threat, particularly up against Viner. I thought Viner struggled with the physicality of a Premier League striker. I thought
was Larsen the big number 9?
Big number 9.
Who's their reserve striker?
No, he starts for them.
No, he's their starting striker. Yeah,
he starts for them, and he was a good player. I think that's a player that if you're going to go for a target player, he's like an ideal build because he was about 6'4". And he's wide, and he knows how to use his body. He's grown into his body, unlike Fally, who is just 80% legs and this gangly sort of. But this guy, he was physical. He put himself about, and he creates the space because people suck towards him because they think the ball's going to go in there, and he can just pop it off really quickly because he was not a bad technical player, Larsen. And what he does is knocks it back to João Gomez, who gets the wrong side of Viner. Viner's slow to come out to him. Maybe should slide across him. But if you commit, there's always a possibility you give a penalty away. And then at that point, you're down to 10 men, potentially.
And a goal.
And a penalty. So
it was Rodrigo Gomez, not João Gomez, wasn't it?
Sorry, Rodrigo Gomez. Then number 9.
Because it was Guedes to Gomez, wasn't it? And then it was in.
Yeah. Great as makes one down the line. And he gets knocked, he tucks it back through into Gomez. He runs onto it. And Gomez just had fantastic pace. But what he had was against Hayden Roberts, who I don't think is particularly quick. And who, for some reason, well, I get it, he comes into midfield with build-up. So he's playing as a centre mid. He likes to come in there. What it does is it leaves all the space behind him. And he's not got the recovery pace of Cam Pring to get back into that position. So if they exploit it, you're trusting McNally to get back across. And McNally's a quick player, but he can't play two positions. No. So Hayden Roberts sort of drifts into this midfield. And like Mark says, I don't think he's a wing-back. I said to Dad after the game, what you get with Hayden Roberts is you get a player who wants to play like Anis Mehmeti, who wants to get people one-on-one. He likes being out wide. I think he rates himself as a technical player because what he does is he takes risk, but he's taking risk at the wrong side of the pitch. Second half, he tries to bring the ball down, he tries to turn, he miskicks it. But what was happening was last year he was doing it and it was coming off and it looked fantastic at left centre back. What he had was a fantastic defender in Rob Dickey and Cam Pring, who had the pace if something went wrong. So Hayden Roberts, for me, I don't know what his best position is because he looks like a winger that you're almost playing at left wing back, but he's not a winger. But he's got the qualities of potentially a lower tier winger.
You said he's like Anis Mehmeti. He wants to be Anis Mehmeti.
He's not
got Anis Mehmeti's trickery. I think he's physically stronger than Anis. And I thought, and I know, Neil, you thought Anis was a bit off his game. I thought he did all right today.
He got taken off, Dave. And he got rightly taken off. And that is rare. When he's on his game, Manning would not take Anis off.
Okay.
Knowing that he's that maverick type player that might just create. So it's indicative for me that he was watching the same game that I was, which
it looked to me like Anis was really frustrated today. And I think that he was frustrated for numerous reasons. I think he was frustrated with Fally Mayulu. I think he was frustrated with the lack of aggression. And I think he was frustrated that I don't think he got the ball particularly as much as he'd like. Because what Anis would do is what he did when he first came in, which was just run in a straight line, ignore everyone else in the inside, and I'm just going to take it and I'm going to do it myself. And that to me is just symptomatic of someone going, right, you lot can't do it, so I'm going to try and do it myself. So I think maybe he lost faith that we were going to get anything from that game. And I think he just tried to take the mantle on himself.
What were your thoughts, Mark, at 2-0 when that second goal goes in? We're thinking,
I'm thinking this could be anything unless we sort this out. The other problem we had is because the two number 10s come in narrow, especially Anis Mehmeti, it just left a lot that space, especially down the Wolves' right-hand side. So Roberts, very, very tentative, one-on-one with Rodrigo Gomez, had no chance. He beat him in a foot race. He just did him for pace again and again, and City were continually losing the ball most of the time in the first half. And if you look at the overall possession stats, Wolves were just happy to sit in and pick us off in the middle because we were doing two things. When we played the ball, we can play short passes. And when we had the ball, we were losing it very easily in that first 25 minutes, over and over again. So as soon as we lose the ball in the middle, Wolves attacked in numbers. And that was how they got the second goal. It was a beautiful piece of direct running. It just shows that when you run at defenders, what can you do if you pass and move ahead of the ball? It was simple. I'd love to see us.
And in fairness, Mark, some of the goals we've scored recently, some of the ones that Anis has got, has been that running. And you can't stop it, can you?
The thing was, what he did once, when he had a block shot on the first half, I think he took it on his left. Normally, we'd see him switch back on his right and open up the space. He wouldn't do it all of the time because I think he mixes it up. He didn't try and go down the line. He was ponderous. I think, alluding to what Tom said, something got in his head. He wasn't a freewheeling Anis, headless chicken, but he also... I thought he lost faith in ability to be able to play the ball on, and he had no relationship with Mayulu. And like I said, I just don't think he crosses that ball when he gets it. If he could have hit that ball early across the box. A good forward would make the run across the defender and perhaps take it at the near post, but he didn't have that faith in Mayulu to do that at all. Maybe Naki Wells, but he didn't play that ball in, and he stopped. And too often in the half, the same thing with McCrory on the right, puts the brakes on, plays the ball back. When we had the chance to play first-time balls, we were too slow. And that's the difference between the Premier League and the Championship. Players, that second, when somebody's making a run, they don't play the ball, or they think nobody's making that run for the ball. So we recycle, team drops back into a shape, and how do you break down 10 behind the ball? And that's what happened.
No, and you're absolutely right. That happened one time in the second half when you say about McCrory. He stopped, and then we sort of still retained possession. But I suddenly thought, well, the chance is gone because I had literally everybody in the final third of the field. Neil, we give ourselves a lifeline in injury time. Yeah,
before we get to Twine, can I just make a point about Roberts? I think after today and possibly last couple of games, that question of who is the best left wing back, Pring or Roberts, been put to bed. Because for me, I'll get it right in a moment. Pring, far superior. What Pring gives you is an outlet outside of Mehmeti. Mehmeti's coming inside and he's looking for an outside runner. Because that outside runner takes the guy away, gives him the space to actually cut in on his right. And all day today, he's getting the ball and he's waiting. I don't think Roberts actually made it up the pitch. Really, I didn't see Roberts.
Second half, he was put, but not a lot.
But again, go back to Tom's
Neil,
point. He made
he
really,
did
really
contribute towards the goal. It was down to his ingenuity that we actually got the goal because he came inside. He actually made a run inside towards their penalty area before passing to Knight, who got fouled. So he used his intelligence that time. And he has, I'm thinking the last game against Derby, he made a few runs inside and tried to get onto the ball. But he's no wing back at all. Yeah, he just don't have the defensive capabilities.
Pring for me, far superior.
Yeah. But doesn't that would come on to the goal in a second, but just my pennyworth on that.
He looks, one word for Roberts is flaky, I think you could say. He's very flaky.
His flakiness in that role with Pring out, doesn't it herald doesn't it herald the possibility of using Elijah Morrison, who can play as a winger? Yeah. Now, it'd be very lightweight if you had a Morrison Mehmeti, but God, you'd have some pace down there if you put those two.
Do you think Mehmeti's quick?
Quick enough.
Do you think?
Not quick, but you know.
The thing is, on Monday when they played Forest, they were playing against two flying wide men in Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. We just didn't have that pace. The only pacey player we could have played, and there was, I think, Wolves would have been susceptible to the ball played behind if we could have got behind their high line without being caught offside. Would probably have been Sam Bell.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we just looked. I thought the difference today, particularly first half, was their threat was carried with pace and behind.
Yeah,
I thought we had to play a certain passive way because Mayulu has one speed, like Dan said. He gets going and it's this low piece sort of run. There's no change of speed. There's no switch on. With Anis, I think that he's got some initial burst, but I don't see him beating players for pace particularly. With Anis, it's all technical skill. Can he do the trickery to get around them? And on the other side, who was it on the other side? I guess Yu's got a bit of pace, but Yu's not.
I think the problem with Yu, he suffered from the change from 4-2-3-1 to 3-4-3-4-2-1 because I think he's looked much more dangerous playing wide in that 3, playing in a narrow 2. He just doesn't look the same player at all.
No.
Sorry, I'm going to cough. Right, back to the main point. Yeah, right? Knight gets fouled. Great free kick position. Yeah, I said to my Wolves.
I think he moved the ball slightly, didn't he?
I said to my Wolves, I said we're going to get a goal here.
Yeah,
and you were right, David.
It's very rare.
Where you turn.
It's very rare that I would get my phone out to actually do it, but I just had a feeling it was there, and that's the video that I sent to you.
There it is. Look, we've never done this. We've never done this on the podcast before. Look, we're going to get it out here, right? And then will this appear on the screen? Look, we're going to. Here we go.
I just hope there's no.
There's a goal. We'll probably get banned. There we go. Whoa!
And there was something very bizarre. Normally, I'm in E32 in the Dolman, and we just went in the cheap seats over at the South Stand today because so many people didn't want to do it. So I just went in the South Stand today, and I just had a feeling, like you. Like you.
Y-O-U.
I'm sure half the bot.
I'm not keen on you.
I'm sure half the Wolves.
Wait till we sign Ben Mee.
I'm sure half the Wolves fans are thinking that we were booing him as well.
No, I had to explain. I had to interpret.
And it's like,
why are you booing with Cole Skews, didn't it? Skews.
Yeah, it's not the same though.
The whole time. No, we're just shouting out his name all the time. I just had a feeling with Twine today. He looked positive as he stood up on that free kick and
cracking finish.
Fantastic.
Tom?
Fantastic finish.
Yeah, I mean, with dead ball, I think he's best player I've definitely seen us have dead ball wise. So and I thought it was better today from open play. I thought it was affecting more. I think he had a bit between his teeth. I thought he was one of the players that stood up actually today and wanted that. And he was he was coming deeper and then turned, and I he did a great turn to get away in the second half, and I'm thinking, okay, he can drop in, he can do this, and I thought that was one of the better games he's had since signing permanently from open play in particular.
I'd agree with that. I mean, I've said what's he there for and what have you a few weeks ago, but today, and I commented to Neil earlier, I thought he was playing deep. He wanted the ball. He was making things. Making things happen. Mark, halftime comes. Were you feeling we got a game on in the second half going in?
Well, we had an opportunity. I thought Wolves, had gears to go through because they'd taken the competition seriously. They looked strong going forward, untroubled in defence. So I thought, City could keep them out. Then they may have a chance of maybe dragging it to extra time if they get the second get the equaliser. But I thought Wolves had gears to go through and it would be whether they played with the same attitude in the second half. It was theirs to lose, is the best way of putting it.
Good point. So Neil, into the second half, we huffed and puffed. We didn't blow the house down with the three little piggies. I was reminded of that game in 1998 with the mascot incident. But 1998,
27
years ago.
And we took the lead through Carl Hutchins in that game. Would you believe that?
We got another great right back.
Benny Artson special.
That was his first home game, wasn't it? We lost, was it 5-1?
Yeah, because we lost at Bradford, haven't we, when the coach took the wrong turning, apparently. I think they left the ground early and it took hours to get up there.
Can you believe that Bradford is the UK capital of culture this year? I mean, I couldn't believe that when I saw it on the news last night.
But one of my favourite things about that game was
you just upset all our viewers in Bradford.
Wolfie, yeah. Anyway,
sorry, Tom. What was that?
One of my favourite things about that game against Wolves, 27 years ago, was all the Wolves fans going, "Come on, Wolfie," and chanting "Come on, Wolfie" as the two mascots have it out in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, it was. The funny thing was, I think the police had a word. This is what City's marketing was like. Our mascot was a cat, obviously, because cats are associated with Bristol City, and I think he got dragged into the row as a three cold-sealed pigs and Wolfie, and I think the City cat tried to calm them down. But I remember actually Cold Seal, they had this huge campaign, Cold Seal Windows. They used to be on GWR and had this really quirky ad. But it was quite a funny aside, wasn't it, to the massacre that was going on in the pitch. So it was quite funny.
Yeah, did they sponsor us, Cold Shield, or not?
No, it was just.
That was an interesting little news item the other week. Our sponsor has gone into administration.
They were rescued.
Well, they've done a pre-pack. I think they've come back under new ownership. So you've got to feel sorry for the creditors in that situation.
Yeah, but, 10p in the pound for them.
10p in the pound for them, if they're lucky. Second half, Neil, we huffed and we puffed, as I started to say. The goal frame, because you can't call it the woodwork these days, the goal frame was hit 3 times, twice by us.
3 times by them.
3 times by them.
Yeah, it's Al Nuri that heads it against his own.
Yeah, it wasn't the Rory.
By them, but did we really? I mean, we played well in the second half, but without really, as you said right at the top of the podcast, we weren't aggressive in our.
A lot of my friends went there today. They were all season ticket holders in E32. A lot of them were just like the cup games and all the rest of it. So some of them were watching on streams and all the rest of it around the country. And I said to them halfway through, we just need a free kick. We need a set piece because we're not getting a goal from open play at all. So when there was that handball, and then a free kick, and again, as Tom said, wonderful delivery by Twine. Really put it in a dangerous position in relation.
Right at the far post, yeah.
Right at the far post, but other than that, I think we look okay.
We didn't give Johnson anything to do.
Manning, as we were driving
3
back,
shots on target all afternoon.
As we were driving home, and then Manning came on, and you listened to Manning. We get more again in the second half. At 2-1, it's for Wolves to lose that game. So that's their game management in relation to it. They're not going to get too ambitious because they're protecting a lead and all the rest of it. But with it, the pace that we went into that second half with, for me, we turned to 80 minutes, and Thomas and I turned to one another and went, are we actually losing this game, or are we just playing out? It felt like Wolves were 4-0 up, and we're just doing damage imitation. We're playing it back to forth, back to the pace of the game did not change.
No,
really. It went up a little bit when Naki Wells came on after 75, but you're just like, come on, guys, come on, let's get out. Let's get
but Manning's going to be quite happy because, you know, at 20 minutes in, he's thinking, God, I might get eyed in here. And then, thanks to the golden child, we go in, goal behind, and we're not showing any aggression. You might as well go out and lose 3-1 than 2-1.
For me, the second half, there was still a passiveness to it. There was no like, and then when we did the substitutions, we went.
That was going to be my next point.
Like for like.
Yeah.
Again, did we change formation the whole game? Did we change something? Did we make Wolves sort of adapt, change, whatever? No, they just.
It's all pre-planned stuff, and that gets back to his ability to make changes in game. Fundamental changes that aren't pre-planned. Because
I think some of his substitutions.
Because the Wolves fans sat next to me said, "What? You just taken off your two best players?" Well, Messi and Knight.
I think Knight was about minutes, and he's always got this thing about resting.
We haven't got a game, but we haven't got a game.
I know, but he just thinks if there's an opportunity. But it's just this element of like bringing Bell on, and maybe bringing Bell and Wells on, changing position. Doing something different that second half when you're changing the game. It's not like a league game to a certain degree where you're 1-1 or go, but you just wanted to see us go for it a little bit more in it, and we did. And that second half, I felt, although as a contest we stood up a bit more physically, challenges and all the rest of it, albeit they hit the post twice. I just felt that there was a little bit like they allowed us to play a little bit more. And they allowed us to actually play the ball. And you could just tell if you were a Wolves management, you're like, fill your boots as you play the ball to one centre back, then play the ball,
but that's
and then play it out to left wing back, and then play it back to centre back, and then play it out to the right, and then play back. Fine, we're winning the game. Yeah. Wolves were under no pressure whatsoever to actually.
Yeah, there were two things, weren't there, Neil and Tom? No urgency and no change, no plan B. I mean, it's easy to say plan B. I mean, the idea, there's a school of thought that says we need to do the things we do better, or you change the way you play. Now, City have been more direct. They didn't really have. The only way they could have done that is if they'd have put a defender up front, because there's no physicality in Mayulu, and there was nobody else on the bench that could provide that physicality. So we couldn't play direct. So they could have played Sam Bell. But there's just no aggression. There was no pressing. It was 2-1 paced. It was just that lack of urgency. And I think it's crept in other games as well. You know, we're not breaking our neck. We're trying to see the, not see the game out, but you didn't. Yeah, it's like you said, you would have thought we were losing 4-0. It looked like, I mean, the Knight substitution was like game management for his minutes. But it seemed crazy after what happens at a minute after that. Can I say, David?
You can't. Well, McGuane going down.
Well, McGuane going down, and there must have been an issue with McGuane because he had an injury in the first half, and we still played on for about a minute. And he got up and he looked a bit groggy. I don't know how much, but he just went down off the ball on his back, holding his head, and then he was substituted for Urfi. That seemed a little bit crazy because Urfi's probably number 10. He's had to fill in it right wing back when we were desperate against Norwich and Sheffield United.
Well, you could have brought Cal Naismith on. I'm not a Naismith fan.
Naismith's a defender, left-sided centre back or left back, but he can pass the ball and he can tackle. Why would you put a diminutive number 10 in a central midfield position when you've got somebody who could do that role?
All right,
15,
Mark,
20 minutes.
Let me stop you there. Let's let Tom have a little chat here. Tom, the substitutions, your dad said about, bringing on Bell and Wells. When he said that, I immediately thought, you could have done that because you could have switched to a back four, because you could have taken McCrory off, because McCrory did the full 90 today, didn't he? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could have taken McCrory off and done Tanner, Viner, McNally, Roberts, and then you could have had Bell and Wells up front, What did you think of the substitutions, and would that have been an option as you saw it, Tom?
I think Bell should have got on at some point. I'm disappointed that Bell didn't come on, because I think Bell gives you two things. I think in attack, he gives you an out ball in behind. I think you can then afford to go longer. And I think defensively, what Bell gives you is a guy to lead the press and to squeeze their back line. And I think Bell, what he does is he hounds defenders. I don't think he's physical, but he's on you, and he'll sprint out to you, and you don't get any time on the ball, and then maybe they clip it in behind, then you have to scrap for the second ball. But to not bring Bell on, okay, Naki's better defensively than Mayulu, but you've not got a guy, particularly with Knight off, the press goes. When Knight's not on the pitch, what Knight does is he leads the press and he dictates, if we go, we go. And what we've been good at in the last 4 games in this recent run of form is pressing in 2 and 3s and winning the ball back in tight areas. Today, we didn't do that. Today it was like we stood off them. They just outpaced us. They outthought us, particularly first 20 minutes. And we were just stood there like, okay, we can't press them. We're not winning physical battles. We were just going through the motions first 20 minutes. It was like almost waiting for the inevitable to be about 2-3-0 down. Then then when you're 2-3-0 down, the expectations off you, and you maybe feel a bit more freedom to take a bit of risk. But we didn't want to press them today. I think that's the biggest thing that I was disappointed with first 20 minutes. We didn't want to get at them. We let them ease into the game. And, when they set the tempo 4 minutes in, when that Aït-Nouri shot was saved, you're thinking, right, we need to switch on now. You're expecting us to go up a level, and we didn't.
We didn't. And we were 2-0 down.
And we were 2-0 down.
We woke up.
And then I think everyone in the ground at 2-0 down goes, well, that's game over, because we never looked like scoring 2 goals. I thought with the subs, I thought Bird made a difference when he comes on. I think Bird, for me, the disguise pass he does is fantastic. Yeah. But what you need with Bird is you need a guy with a bit of pace and a bit of game intelligence. Because you put Sinclair in, you've got the pace, but you've not got the game intelligence. You put Wells in, you've got the intelligence, not the pace. So it's difficult. And then with Mayulu, you've got neither at the minute. So
the long and the short of it is, I think we're all in agreement with this, is that we went out and we spent best part of 4 million, if you include signing on fees, on buying
five,
on Fally and Armstrong?
Yeah, I think so. We're signing on fees, the transfer fees.
All right, well, I'm going to be concerned. I'll say 4. They'll say 3, right? So let's pick 4.
They'll say 2.
We went out and we spent 4 million quid on 2 players, right? That at the end of the day, they're not very good.
And on 4-year deals.
Yeah. And, I don't know whether what was in Tommy's head and what have you, but Joe Jordan said to me at the Senior Reds, I was sat next to him for the whole lunchtime and I did a Q&A with him as well. So this is straight from the horse's mouth. He said that if you lose, you can't stop a player if he wants to leave. And Tommy clearly wanted to leave. So Tommy, the 5 million we got for Tommy, that gets you a striker at championship level like Tommy that will get you 10 to 12 goals a season, possibly. Yeah. And we went out and instead of buying 1 player at 5 million, we bought the 2 for the combined. We got 2 players. So we've got 2 average players. And that has been the whole problem with this club's transfer policy for even since the Mark Ashton years. So we'll go out and we'll get 6 players at $8,000 a week rather than 3 players at $15,000 a week. We're not buying quality,
but they're looking at resale value, though, aren't they?
And that's
when they're buying a player for 2.5, they're thinking they turn around, and if you're in, Fally goes for 4 times the price, aren't you? According to Mr. Gay. But at the end of the day, it's like we've got these offers away. Our whole thing is like we buy this player in at a certain price, and then we're looking. This is an investment. We're looking at players not necessarily to get us instant to where we need to be.
Well, we're never going to get
but that balls into what we've spoken about the last few weeks about the way in which are we happy to just muddle around in mid-table, or we're not happy.
We're not happy, but the powers that be are, and as long as we turn up there like Muppets, 24,000 people there today. That was, and it was full.
I think that was our biggest actual amount of people in the ground, but
this season.
Because and they might quote 25,000, but we've all seen the stands where there is a few thousand empty seats and all the rest of it. That's people that have actually paid tickets, and there might be a few that didn't turn up today, but generally I think that's our big scrap. McGuane in the second half, he took a blow to the head in a header. He went down, and we were going, and the whole team was saying, "Put the ball out." And Alice was up with the ball, and he was dribbling left, right, and centre all over the place. And everyone's going, and then he loses it, and everyone's going. And then it comes back to him, and it keeps on going again. And then Knight loses.
But Neil, if it's a head injury, shouldn't the referee notice that blow whistle straight away?
They looked on the head. And they never came on to actually deal with McGuane then at that point, because if they had, he probably would have gone, "Oh, I've got bang you. I don't have a clue where I am, what I'm doing." And then they might have bought Bird on for McGuane rather than Bird on for Knight.
Yeah.
In the knowledge.
But
can I just say something?
Yeah, go on.
If it's a head injury, that's really the responsibility of the ref to recognise, not the players to put the ball out.
Was that the first half?
No, second half.
Yeah.
So
The other thing is,
McGuane, who was down on the floor for a long time.
With Knight going shouting, "Put the ball out, put the ball out," and Alice is doing his.
Usually, the thing is, referees.
We're so used to us attacking the other end.
Neil, referees in previous games have blown the whistle for players who've gone down with leg injuries. Now, it's only supposed to be a head injury when a referee calls a halt to the game, isn't it? Unless a player wants to put the ball out. And that's on the players, but it's a referee's responsibility. If a player goes down, he should be looking back because it's the player's well-being that he should be interested in. If there's a head injury, we don't know how bad it is. Luckily, he was okay, but it's got to be on the referee to stop the game, and he didn't.
And he didn't. No, I remember. Yeah, no, I remember that. But getting back to the point, we've bought two players in Mayulu and Armstrong, and dare I say it, you said earlier, one of you said, we've coached out whatever sparkle that he had, because I'm not a great Mark Sykes fan, but I'd have Sykes in ahead of you if you're going to play one wide player. But then I think we should have Earthy in the team in some shape or form, but that's just my view.
He just runs around Earthy, don't he?
Yeah, he
just runs around.
He wasn't great. He wasn't great today. He lost possession a couple of times. But look, Cup's done for this season. And if somebody said to me, "Do you want to beat Wolves and have a bit of Cup glory, or get 3 points at the Rico Arena," or whatever it's called, next Saturday against Frank Lampard's Coventry City, I'd take the 3 points every time. We got a week off now to prepare for that. The next two games are quite critical, really, aren't they? Because working on my little batch of 5 groups of 4 games between now and the end of the season, where each group of 4 has got to produce 2 wins, 1 defeat, and 1 draw. 2 wins, 1 defeat, 1 draw. Coventry away, Sheffield Wednesday away, next 2 games, right? What are your thoughts on that, Neil?
Well, for me, it goes back to the podcast we had last week, where we were saying, where is our ambition as a club when we come into this window? And we all said, right, we're 8th. Are we going to push on? Everybody's identified that perhaps we just need a different dynamic in the forward position. And what are we doing? Are we going to recall Palmer Holden? Are we going to change it up? Are we going to bring this player in? What are we going to do? And then in the week, we've had the Manning interviews. Oh, I'm not recalling any players. There's no plans of mine to recall. And in fact, by the look of it, no, we're going to go with what we have.
He's got to say that.
Well, he's got to say that, David. But then the next 2 games, you get to the next home game. That's the 25th. That's six days left in the transfer window. You lose the next 2 games, and you're down in 10th, and that moment's lost, isn't it?
But if you look at I think the next 4 are Coventry away, Sheffield Wednesday away, Blackburn home, Oxford away.
So you lose the moment, don't you? You have a moment in time. You have a crossroads period. And we were speaking before about the 07-08 season when we had that January transfer window and we were first in the league under Johnson. And we went out and we could have done X, Y, Z. We brought in Adebola and it changed the way we play and all the rest of it.
Nick Carl came then as well.
But with it, so you just have these sort of sliding door moments where you just think, are we going to recognise? Are we going to go for it? And the mere fact that we've turned around and gone, no, it'll be all right. when evidently you can just see it. I mean, we're one injury off, aren't we? I mean, if Wells gets another injury or he's been out a couple of times, then you're definitely starting Fally, aren't you? Because Armstrong's still injured, and then you're definitely starting Fally. And we all know, Christ, we've had a month of Fally now, haven't we? And he's had the opportunity.
The long and the short of it is, if we're going to do anything this season, the next 2 games, we can afford to lose one of those because we have to win against Blackburn at home and probably beat Norwich. So Oxford away. The 2 games coming up, a loss and a draw means you then got to win the next 2. Yeah, and I see a loss and a draw as not being unlikely because Coventry under Lampard, they
hit and miss.
Hit and miss. Sheffield Wednesday away, hit and miss. But that's every team in this division. I see Andy Vyman scored the winner for Blackburn in the Cup at Borough. So, Mark, the next 2 games coming up, is it a disaster if we only get 1 point? Because anything more than,
if we're saying that we want to make an assault on the playoffs, we need to get 4 points minimum. Really need to win 2. The problem is we dropped 7 points in injury time this season. 6 of them have been away at Hull, Sunderland, and Plymouth. I mean, especially Plymouth, where we gave a sucker an even break in injury time again. Gave him a chance from a free kick where he didn't need to. So we need to start winning away games. Ideally, we need to win both. They both only won 1 game in the last 4. They're both beatable. If we go there with confidence, we go there with controlled aggression and be positive, we can get 2 wins from there. I think we need to score first in both games, but it's possible. My head says probably 4 points, possibly 2. Let's be positive and say 4 points from those 2 games.
Well, that would be absolutely brilliant if we could get that. I mean, if it was defeat and a defeat and a win, I'd be happy with that as well. Tom,
I think we don't lose both of those games. I think
we cannot lose both. Tom, I said in the last pod we've got 20 games to go, and it's sort of 10 wins, 5 draws, 5 defeats. Or 2-1-1 times 5 between now and the end of the season. Let's take a positive view. Let's assume we get a draw at Coventry, beat Sheffield Wednesday away, and beat Blackburn. And then 5 days before the window shut, in fact, it actually shuts on Monday, February the 3rd. So there's a little bit of an extension. But we beat Blackburn. So the next 3 games we picked up, we get 7 points. Right? Surely they might just relax the purse strings a little bit.
And what are you talking about getting?
I'm getting a loan. And that's what they were calling for, Chris Honor and on Radio Bristol today. We need a Tammy. But is there a Tammy there?
Tammy was a fantastic player, but how many 18-year-olds come to the Championship and don't affect it as they would like and then go back? You've got to look at Daniel Jefferson at Watford. He got bought in on loan from Bournemouth and he's done awful and gone back to Bournemouth. I know he scored today, but teams take this risk, but you can't put your season's potential on a lone 18-year-old up front. That's you need to build a squad and you need to have a consistency in the squad. You can't get to January and go, you have 1 or 2 things. You either go, right, we're going to go spend 6-7 million now on a striker and that's it, because you're buying at a premium in January. I mean, we're never going to do that. We're never going to spend 6 or 7 million on a striker, particularly after you bought 2, because you'd have to then admit that your recruitment's been a failure in the summer, which we won't do. So you then go in a loan from the Premier League, maybe a Jayden Dans from Liverpool, as per se, I know is available potentially for a loan. That's an 18-year-old from Liverpool. If your playoff potential is based on that 18-year-old from Liverpool, it's a massive risk.
It's a risk, but then surely a Jayden Dans is going to be better than a Fally or a Sinclair, and you go with him, and then you've got Naki as your backup. Because at the moment, Naki is our main striker.
Naki is but then you've got to integrate the player. The player has to learn to play, the Bristol City way. He will have been used to how it is at Liverpool. These 18-year-olds at Premier League clubs are so sheltered. They're so looked after. They're so whatever. exposing them to, they've got to live away from home, they've got to train with people they don't know, they've got to find a new setup, they're playing against men, it's a massive risk. What you do is you go, okay, there's certain positions you can bring loans in, I find, and you've got to look at who's available, and there's no one available. The only potential I could see is if Tom Cannon was to get recalled by Leicester and then sent to us, because we then sell it
Tom
as
Cannon with?
Stoke at the minute.
He scored today.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen. That's the only way I could see that happening, where almost like a Naki Wells type situation at QPR, where he was alone at QPR and we went, we'll buy him permanently. And Tom Cannon would cost you 6, 7, 8 million.
Well,
and it would never
spend
happen.
that. It's not going to spend that. And, you know, that's... And then you look at other players in sort of somebody... You're not going to get a Whittaker from Plymouth. But what about that Hardy?
I think we've been burned. I know there was a couple of comments on the feed earlier on. I think we've been about Callas. Look, the last time we spent decent money, above 5 million, we spent on Fami and Callas. And so we got Fami, Callas, Palmer, De Silva, all walked out for free. So what was that? 8 million on Callas, 5.5, 13.5.
About 20 million.
20 million have walked away free. So I think mentally, as a club, we are afraid now of getting above the 3.5 million. But we're not going to do it. But sometimes if you're going to get in the playoffs, if you're going to get out of this division, you've got to have momentum. And you've got to carry that momentum through. And when is the best time to actually, improve the squad, take the squad forward? It's when you're winning, isn't it? It's when you've got a little bit of momentum when you're winning. And actually, because that shows ambition, but also the players that are in there, there's some real belief inside the club now that we can actually achieve this. I don't get the sense at the moment that the club actually believes that we can get in the playoffs. Because if the club actually believed that we could get in the playoffs, we'd be talking, Manning would be coming out and go, there's a real sense of belief in this squad, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to be looking to improve on this. And ladies and gentlemen of the fan base, if there's an opportunity to improve us, let's go for it. Why won't we? He's not. He's coming in. He's already dampened down expectation, isn't it?
Well,
it's like kind of we're going to go and we're not going to. You can't tell me Seb Palmer Holden couldn't play better in a 9 than Falle out there at the moment.
It depends. I don't think what are the terms of the loan agreement with Dundee United?
There's a recall on it.
There is.
Yeah. So
but has it got to be agreed by both parties?
He's turned around and said, I think he's probably better doing up at Dundee and having a better time up at Dundee than coming back. And you're like, okay, so then you're saying then that you've really got to actually give Falle more time, and we really believe in Falle and we want to do this with Falle, as opposed to are results important? Are results important for the club at the moment? Are we happy with 12th as a club, or are we actually saying
I think a lot of people are. I think there's a big chunk of the fan base that are just happy where we are. Yeah, and somebody even said, now the thing is, you've all raised it. Part of our problem this season has been conceding goals in the closing stages of games. And if you add in the points that we've conceded, because we're still the 8th highest goal scorers in the division, if you add back the points that we have lost through conceding those late goals, we're not a million miles away. And if between now and the end of the season we didn't concede any last-minute goals, or in the closing stages or points-losing ones, somebody put a thread on O2. Maybe striking isn't the need that we have. And the only player that has been mentioned as a name coming here in this transfer window is Harry Darling, the centre-half from Swansea. And I know we've let Rob Atkinson go out the door.
Not fully fit Ron Atkinson.
Not fully fit Rob Atkinson.
Don
20 minutes up. He never got 20 minutes for us up at Sunderland the other week, but he got 20 minutes for them.
John Messino said after the game against Sunderland, a fully fit Rob Atkinson would be playing for Bristol City every week, and he was really positive. But he basically said that we wouldn't have got him if he'd been fully fit. So I would imagine it's a bit on. I guess that Rob Atkinson wants to play regularly. Liam Manning can't guarantee that, but so he's given him an opportunity. I think is crazy when if you're playing if you're playing a back three and you've only got 4 specialist centre backs, letting one go out on loan. But as Mousinho said, he's not fully fit, so he might be better off playing at that level, and we take a chance, because otherwise we have to draft fullbacks, don't we, wing backs, into playing in defence. I don't think it's great, but if Atkinson wants to play regularly, then he's not going to get that assist right now.
Question for each of you then, right? Because Rob Atkinson's out of contract in the summer, isn't he?
No,
he's got another 2 years.
He's got another 2 years.
Yeah,
I thought it was 26 or 27.
All right,
no, we gave him another 3-year contract after he was out.
Yeah, while he was injured, we signed.
I didn't know that. I was going to say, do we think he'll ever play for us again, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, arguably, again, one of the people on the chat made the point, and I agree with it. Viner down the centre of the 3. I mean, if you've got a fully fit Atkinson, arguably your 3 strongest centre backs would be Dickey, Atkinson, and McNally.
Yeah,
I think that. I mean, physically, Zach, particularly in the centre today. Okay, he's up against Larson, who's a Premiership forward, but I just think that physicality, when you're playing in the centre, you need a physicality to you when you're in the centre. And your guys around the outside, left and right, can be a little bit more mobile, because they might bring the ball forward in the way that Dickey used to bring the ball forward, a little bit in the way McNally brings it.
And Atkinson used to.
And Atkinson as well, with it. But I just think Viner in the middle of the 3, to me, physically, he doesn't have it. And the mentally side of things, he doesn't have it.
All right, guys.
Very exposed, didn't he, today?
Almost time to wrap up. What I just want to say is, if we're at that critical phase of the season now that we want to keep getting the points, get the momentum, keep in touch with the playoffs. I think the minute that the playoffs is really just based on achieving the playoffs is based on winning 6 out of the final 8, right? I would like to see the youngsters given a chance, and by that I'm talking about the Morrisons of this world and some of the youngsters, but I know that won't happen, because Manning will want to be ensuring we finish at least 1 position higher, because the season could be over for us by the middle of February, couldn't it? We're on a bit of a roll.
If we lose the next 3, then you're going,
if we lose the next 3, we're done for.
Exactly. And that could happen at any point in the season. You're chasing now. You've got nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
You are just constantly chasing.
But to get to 73 points, I'm calling that the number, which win 10, draw 5, lose 5. And if you look at the next games that are coming up, the next batch of 6 that are coming up, you've got your Oxfords, you've got Swansea at home, you've got Cardiff. I think it was Chris Honor said, and I think it was Ed, they're all winnable games, but they're all losable games. Yeah.
Well, what we've done over Christmas, David, is we won the games we should do, apart from Plymouth, haven't we?
With our 20 games, we're more likely to do something like 5, 10, 5, right? Which is 15, 25 points on top of the 37 that we got at the moment. Oh, look, 62 points. Isn't that a familiar number? We're gearing, this whole season is gearing up, as I said on TalkSport 2's little piece I did with TalkSport 2 this week. We're gearing up for the El Clasico game of the Championship in the final match of the season at Ashton Gate against Preston North End, who is going to take 11th or 12th in the division. That's it. That's where we are. That is us.
But then I think, okay, we made a loss of 3.5 million, but then we sold a Scott, didn't we? And we haven't got a Scott anymore.
No.
So without that Scott, we've got regular losses of 20 plus.
Well, that's another story. That's a whole new podcast, that is, to about money.
And you're talking about a turnover going up by 16% this year, but you still, you still lost money, and then B, you still lost money. And with
if you're a Premier League team looking at Jason Knight today, not Mehmeti, you're looking at Jason Knight, and you want a player that's a full Irish international that runs round, not like a headless chicken, who's a bloody good player. He is a good player. He's playing the best he's played for us. What price somebody coming in for Knight in the summer? And what price do we get for him? Because he's probably the closest we've got to a player in the 5 to 10 million sale bracket at the moment.
He's the type of player that a newly promoted club in a championship, so maybe a Burnley or something like that.
Okay, Josh Browner went 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 6 years ago.
He's the type of player that you put a £10 million offer in when you go up for,
and we let it go.
And it's likely,
and that is the thing that
Well,
we will sell.
if Anis continues to score, he gets say 15 goals. Either him, Knight, or Bird, one of them will have to go to be able to stem some of the losses we're making in the next year or so. It's inevitable.
So we've got a flawed. This is, as I say, it's a whole new podcast. We got a flawed business model because we must be the only club that's losing £20 million a year on 40 million turnover.
We've got the highest turnover out of any non-parachute club, but yet we lose so much money from operating costs per year.
Because we don't know. It's all smoke. It's all smoke and mirrors. Right, everybody. That's it. We're done for today. Thanks to Neil and Tom. Thanks to you, Mark. We will be doing our review of Coventry at 6 o'clock next Saturday, and hopefully we might be reporting on a win to keep the momentum going. But in the meantime, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Have a good week. All the best. Bye-bye.